I run one of the best performing lifecycle marketing agencies in the world. We've worked with over 100 e-commerce companies, including multiple 9-figure brands like Half, Everyday, Better Me, and many others, and frankly more 8-figure companies than I can count. In many ways, we are the agency people go to when their current agency doesn't perform. And over the years, I've interviewed tons of people from other agencies, from in-house brands, from freelance backgrounds, and the one thing that I always see over and over and over again is there's this gap, this massive gap between people who are great at doing execution level work and then people who understand things on a strategic level. And the reality of things is that most people don't even realize how stuck they are doing execution level work. And to be clear, the main reason why this gap exists is not talent, it's not effort, it's definitely not technology, right? It's this. Most people have never really been taught how a real e-commerce customer journey works. They know how to build flows, they know how to send campaigns, they may know Klaviyo and Shopify, and they may have like a lot of best practices, but they don't really understand how things connect and how a customer actually moves from realizing that this brand exists all the way to becoming a loyal customer that shops from that brand over and over and over again. And the promise of this video, if any, is that I'm gonna show you this. And you're gonna watch this video and you're gonna learn things that strategists know that most people don't know about, frankly, in the email marketing space. And this is what will take you from building emails and implementing flows and setting up accounts and doing all of the technical legwork to somebody that is actually able to drive outcomes and communicate outcomes and can have higher fees, can become irreplaceable really for companies, including brands and including agencies. And you will essentially have more leverage, you will be able to earn more, and frankly, it's just better. It's more enjoyable to understand how things really work and how they connect with each other so that you can actually build businesses as opposed to using tools. Okay, so we're gonna do this in 3 levels. Level 1, I'll just go through a standard e-commerce journey. Level 2, I'll show you how to think about strategy. Strategy really is finding what matters, what is the lever within a business, and then pulling that lever to drive impact. And number 3, which is frankly what most of you try to do, but can't really do it so effectively because you don't have a very solid understanding of level 1 and level 2, is how do you put this into a plan? How do you actually create a roadmap, right? Okay, let's begin. So the first thing, right off the bat, many of you have this false idea deeply in your subconscious because you've seen it flying all over marketing textbooks and like X and LinkedIn, etc., that the shopping journey is linear, that people see an ad, go to the website and either buy or not buy. IDA, attention, interest, desire, and action. That's not how it works. The reality of things is that things are more like loops. People may show intent. Showing intent can be that they sign up on a pop-up. It can be that they start checkout. It can be that they visit the website. And then they might show this again. They might purchase and then they might stop purchasing and then later on purchase again. So it's not quite as linear, and that's what those arrows on the screen are meant to show. But if you really want to simplify things, there's 2 states that a visitor can be. They are either in a pre-purchase journey or in a customer journey. And a customer can re-enter a pre-purchase journey, by the way. It can happen. Let's start at the very beginning. What tends to happen is that people show intent. That intent, again, can be through signing up through a pop-up. And what they really tell you when they show intent is that they are interested in whatever it is they are showing intent on. So if I start a checkout, I'm interested in the product I had in my checkout. I sign up for a pop-up to get a coupon, I want a coupon code. The mistake that a lot of you do is that you take this for a storytelling moment, a moment where you should talk about your brand and say, this is how I invented this wonderful product, or this is our mission and grand aspiration for the next 20 years, which is all great, but it's not the time to be doing this. What you want to do is start from what brought them to the website, all the way to the landing page, then to the pop-up, and then to the email, have a cohesive experience. That's what you actually want to do. And you want to give them what they want, basically. Like if they see something that says, use this product and you won't have back pain, right? And you respond to this ad, you go to the website, you want to see about information about the product. You don't want to see like a long scientific study about back pain. No, and that's a big mistake that a lot of you do. But let's say that you deliver on the promise. What comes next is that people are thinking, is this right for me? Is this, who else uses this? What's the evidence that this will work? And this goes into your landing pages, but it also goes into your emails. It goes into your emails that are connected to intent, which is your checkout abandonment, your browse abandonment, your cart abandonment, your active on-site abandonment, frankly, and your welcome flow. Many people don't think of the welcome flow as an intent-related flow, but it is, because signing up for a pop-up is very similar to starting checkout. It's both are signals of intent. So those touch points should all be geared towards making people feel that this is appropriate for them, and ideally you want to give them an easy way to start, like some sort of starter kit or product that just like quickly buys, reduces choice, and tells them this is what you need to buy. I want to go on a caveat here. I've worked with multiple different companies, and the companies that I see scaling the most quickly tend to have very simple funnels. One product, one landing page. I mean, they test within that landing page and they will sell the product in multiple quantities maybe, and they will have different pain points that this will happen, but it's simple. There's no huge selection of products that people have to go through. There's no comparing this to that and this to that. The more simple it is, the easier it is really to answer how do I start, the better your conversions will be. Now, everything that you do might be right and people still won't buy. So you always gonna be doing two things. You wanna be having some sort of feedback loop with those people. Why are they not buying? And you wanna have some sort of test running in all of those touch points. When I say touch points, again, I'm not referring pop-up, welcome flow, cart abandonment, checkout. No, I'm referring also to the landing page. I'm referring to the cart and the checkout page, because it all connects. Those are all of the touch points that people will need to go through before they buy, and these should be optimized equally and hopefully by the same people, or at least people working together, not segregated teams that don't speak to each other. Eventually, what will happen is that people will buy, and when people buy, they basically go through this thought process. Did I make a good decision? That's number one. How do I get value from this? What do I do with it? How do I start, basically? How do I stick with it over time? What if I don't like it? So they have those questions, and your post-purchase experience is to answer all of those questions. The mistake a lot of you make is what? You think about this, again, in a very static way. I have my placed order metric on Klaviyo, I trigger a flow, it says thank you. 2 days later, email says these are the ingredients in my supplement. 5 days later, other products you might like. 10 days later, here's the review email. 5 days later, get 20% off. It's not like this. If you think about this, 3 different sub-journeys within the customer journey. There's the transactional piece, which is people want to know where their order is, right? Like they want to know where it will arrive. They want to make sure that it will arrive, frankly. That's one thing. Needs different communication. Another thing is what marketing emails do you send before the product arrives? What you want to do here is build up excitement, tell them what they should expect, just like in a way, hype them, butter them up. I think that's a word I like to use. Butter them up for what happens next and then get them excited about it. And now that it finally arrives, you have the third part, which is the marketing emails after the product has been delivered, which has to do with actually getting them to experience the value proposition of the product. And in many ways, this really means getting them a quick win. That's what it really means, because if you get a quick win, you get excited and then you keep using the product, and you can only benefit from the product if you keep using the product. So getting them a quick win is absolutely key. Eventually, you want to get them to build a habit, and there's a lot that's been said about habit formation in our space, that daily emails are the way to go and we can send SMS reminders and all of those things. I have had many cases at this point wherein those things had a counterproductive impact. Whether people produce a habit or not has a lot to do with how you acquire. I want to repeat this again. Sending daily emails and SMS reminders and creating apps to get people to use the products can have a negative effect. It can actually annoy people and can actually reduce their engagement with a brand. I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen even in cases where the execution was flawless because it was by us. The way to actually get better retention is to acquire people with the right expectations in place from the beginning. Basically, no overpromises, no getting people's pain points to get them to buy because they've lost all hope because this is the only thing that can work. And on top of this, getting them actually to buy more upfront, which we will likely talk about later on in this video. But you should still have some lifecycle communication happening. It's just that you shouldn't be annoying and intrusive and sending daily. That's excessive, at least in most cases that I've seen. I've seen it work less often than I've seen it not work, frankly. But the key thing here is that regardless of how you structure your post-purchase journeys, what a lot of you don't realize is that it's not necessarily the case that people go from purchase to churn. It's not they buy, receive our emails, and then eventually they receive our winbacks. It's entirely possible that people go back to a new loop. They go from this purchase to the website again, showing intent, discovering new products, you need to convince them again, and then they'll buy again, and you need to welcome them again. And this means really that if your automations and if your campaigns don't differentiate between non-customers and customers, you are doing it wrong, because it should. And it even should have further separation than this. Within the customer base, how many of those have purchased once, how many have purchased multiple times, how many are active subscribers. So there's a lot of depth and a lot of loops that are happening with this. It's not quite, I have my welcome flow, I have my checkout abandonment, first purchase, win back, done. No, it has way more layers than this. Eventually people will churn. Churn means that somebody cancels a subscription, but I've seen the word used in non-subscription contexts as well to basically refer to people that haven't really purchased in a recent time frame. So winbacks, as some other people call them. And the way most people try to treat this is to have winbacks. Basically, okay, they haven't purchased in a while, I'm going to send a message, I'm going to get them back. But actually, it's in a way already too late to do this. And the reality of the situation is that in many cases, you see the churn here, but it actually starts here after the purchase. Because if they don't have repurchase intent, it basically means one of two things. They either solve their problem, in which case they're just not interested anymore, and your win-back emails are not going to do that much, or they just didn't have that great of an experience, frankly, which is where you should try to be troubleshooting things first. Evaluate the customer experience here through surveys, through interviews, whatever it is, whatever is easiest and most scalable for your company, then try to iterate on it accordingly. And then on top of this, if you think about it, you can have the best win-back emails, but then you will receive 1, 2, 3, and then what? Some will buy, most won't, the conversion rates are going to be quite low, and you will eventually build this huge database of old customers. And the crazy thing is that many of you will suppress them, whereas you should actually be running what we call resurrection campaigns. Win-backs that are targeting old customers that have had historical value that you should try to bring back to the company. I found 500,000 customers in a brand's manually suppressed lists, which were all customers, including over 100,000 frequent customers. There were customers that had more than 10 orders that were manually suppressed in the past for no reason. So this is more or less how, let's say, standard e-commerce journey looks like. It's very little to do with flows. It's more to do with stages and questions that people are asking themselves. And your job really is to get in front of those questions and answer them. It's not to implement a bunch of automations. Okay, so let's go to level 2. This was level 1. This is how a shopping journey looks like. Not about automations. It's more about customer behavior and how you answer questions and how you get in front of them at the right moment. Level 2 is like what actually matters in an e-commerce business. And again, there's a lot about this on X and LinkedIn, and everybody's favorite word these days is contribution margin. Are you like growing contribution margin? But if you really simplify things, what an e-commerce company cares about is making more money than they spend to acquire a customer. That's ultimately what people want, if you really make it very simple. And this ratio, LTV to CAC, is the way the top brands in the world measure this. LTV stands for lifetime value, and CAC means for cost to acquire a customer. There's a lot of nuance to this. Many people actually track lifetime revenue instead of lifetime value. And many people track CPA instead of CAC. CPA is cost per acquisition, which is basically what? Your total spend divided by your customers that you acquired. So it's how much you spend per customer. The actual CAC calculation should also include the salaries of your marketing teams. And of course, the LTV calculation should not just be revenue, should be revenue minus all of the costs you have to create that revenue. So it's value as in profit divided by CAC. And you really need to get a little bit of financial education to really talk about this. You know, the way you can optimize those metrics, we all intuitively understand. You want to get people to spend more, you want to get them to spend more often, and you want to get them to do this over a longer period of time. Like, that's what it means. But how do you do this without the company losing money? Requires you to know and spend time looking at what is their cost of goods sold, which of those products have greater margin, and you need to have a basic financial education to do this. Now, if you literally Google Business Finance 101, you will find what you need. There's no Shopify, I think, has a lot of good resources on it. I personally have an MBA, but you don't need to have an MBA. There's a lot of resources around there. The basic point of this is that it's not about what you see on Klaviyo, and it's not about what you see on Meta, and it's not about, I don't know, what any other platform reports. It really has to do with what are the actual economics of the business and how can I affect them. And you need need to understand this at some level if you want to call yourself a strategist. You need to be able to differentiate between, oh, I did my split test and my click rate went up, but then the company lost money. Like you need to be able to do this. Let's talk about CPA, which is easier to understand. Again, CPA is total spend divided by customers, and you can do this on a per channel or like in a blended view for all channels. The media buyers of your company or the companies you work with try to optimize this by testing new creatives, testing new landing pages, improving the cart, improving the checkout, having better offers. This in many ways is the main objective that a lot of acquisition teams have, and you should communicate with them. You should understand what's going on the testing on the front end of the business, because if you really think about this, they have way more data than you do. Just like mathematically speaking, lots of people, way more people see the ads than they will ever see your emails. They will test way more creatives than you will be able to test within CRM. And they have this almost like eyeball knowledge now about what works for the company that you will find very difficult to develop just by looking at the CRM alone, that it really pays to be close to them and see what are they testing and what are they optimizing for and what is the downstream economic impact that it has. The reality of things is that most acquisition teams basically overpower the lifecycle teams. They do their thing and then they kind of determine what the business does, and then you need to follow. That doesn't have to be the case if you are able to show a good understanding of how shoppers think, and if you are able to talk about the economic impact of your actions. That's why all of this is important. Okay, we have this, how do we affect it, right? This is of course in the context of subscription businesses. It's what we do at Yocto. We work with subscription companies. We have the LTV Parthenon framework. It's meant to help improve the economics of a business. I'm showing you this as an example of you understanding, okay, if my goal is to improve LTV, I need to think through what are the touch points I can affect to improve that number. And in our case, percentage of orders that start as a subscription, percentage of one-time purchasers converting to subscription, percentage of churn subscribers reactivated will be a huge part of what we can do to affect LTV. And just to give you like a very concrete example, percentage of orders that start as subscription, the average, let's say, email marketer would think about this in terms of, okay, we need to have a post-purchase flow for people that buy twice and tell them, why don't you save more money by going on subscription? And then maybe we would add 4 campaigns that month to promote our subscribe and save program, right? It would help. It's not like useless to do this. But honestly, the best way to do this is to have a subscribe and save nudge in your cart page. That's what will increase this significantly more than the campaigns that you'll do. And even more so than that, it's the landing page and the offer within the landing page itself that will influence this. So again, just to go back to how everything connects. If you have an understanding of how people think and what are the stages that they go through and what do you need to do to like respond to all of them, and then you have a clear sense of the economics of the business, and then you know, for example, that his business will make significantly more money if they grow the number of subscribers they acquire relative to the one-time purchasers, and then you go to that company and say, hey, listen, we can add 4 campaigns or add like 2 automations here and there, but actually what you're missing is this, because that's what will impact the KPI that will make your company significantly more money. You are going to be infinitely more valuable to a D2C brand or an agency brand. By the way, everything I've walked through, most people don't do. I interview a lot of people and people tell me I have a flow map, I have my flow best practices, and then I implement them. Basically, I have my checklist, I see what's missing, and then I implement what's missing. That's not what this job is about. It's your job to evaluate the business through the lens of the journey and see what part of the journey is actually problematic and what do people say and what can we do about it to optimize this company, and then what matters economically for us to focus on. I'll give you a very concrete example so that this is making more sense. One of our clients, it's a new business, we've started working with them a few weeks ago, they're selling soap basically, and they have subscriptions, but around 10% of their business is subscriptions, which is a very, very low number. We have companies that have 90% of their business being subscriptions. So clearly, the biggest opportunity for them is to grow the number of people that start as subscribers, right? And the company's thought process is people basically don't buy soap subscriptions, the product doesn't match the category, it doesn't really work, like we can't really do anything about it, right? Wrong. because what we did was that we looked at the usage of the product and we found out that people take 45 days to consume 1 unit of a product. The second thing we found is that they buy that product in bulk. They buy 4 soaps, 5 soaps, 3 soaps, 6 soaps even, right? This is very easily available on Shopify reports. And then on top of this, we saw that the overwhelming majority of customers are returning customers. So there's clearly behavior that's repeat purchase behavior. They like the product, they buy it in bulk, they come and shop again, which means they're happy with it, right? So there's no reason why they would not be subscribed. The only reason why they don't subscribe is because the company was not offering them appropriate delivery options. They had the ability to select, get it every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. But if 1 unit takes 45 days and you are buying 3 units and 4 units and 5 units, then those frequency options make no sense. So what did we do? We ran a survey. And then from that survey, we validated what the math tell us. People were saying, I love your product, but your subscription is making me stockpile. I don't need that much. Or I don't see options available to me that match how I actually use your product. The solution to this problem clearly is not to improve the company's flows. It's to go through the financial reality of their offer and restructure that offer so that they will still make money, but will offer clean options that people will actually select on the landing page level. And I know what you're thinking, probably like, I signed up to do email marketing. I didn't sign up to fix somebody's business. But that's what strategy means. Strategy is the ability to see out of the 1,000 things that you could be doing, what are the things that you should be doing, ignoring everything else and then focusing on those. And you don't need to do all of this alone. I brought up an example that's, I would say, significantly outside the context of email marketing strategist, just to show you how you can impact a business. You don't need to know how to structure a subscription offer necessarily, but what you do need to know is how can I impact most the companies I work with? What are the levers at my disposal? And you will find that it's not in the flow map and sending 3 campaigns a week. That's just BS for people that don't know any better, frankly. And the last piece which I want to go through is, okay, you have, for example, arrived at this KPI. You say that this is what matters for this business. This is the 3rd step of the strategy development phase. So first, you want to have a sense of the customer journey and where the issues lie. What's essentially under-optimized? Where's the opportunity? Where can I create a better experience for customers? Number 2, you want to have a sense of the economics of the business. And in so doing, being able to identify what are the levers that you need to pull to build that business. And then the 3rd piece is you need to create a plan to actually do this. So you want to have your KPI, subscribers acquired. You need a time window in the last 7 days. You need to have a baseline. How many do we acquire right now? 250 every 7 days. And then what is your target? To go from 250 to 400. You have this KPI and then you list your items, your action items, and then you put them in a timeline, basically. So these items here would affect subscriber base growth. These would affect subscriber loss reduction, etc. And then you say, we do this month 1, month 2, we do this, month 3, we do that. And then you basically need to implement, measure, iterate. It's a loop. Again, that's basically strategy. For a lifecycle strategist, you need to understand customer journey. You need to understand what's the economic reality of the business and what levers would matter in that economic reality. And then you need to set this into action. Say that if my focus is this lever, what are the initiatives I take to affect that level? And then you need to execute and iterate. And that's the end of the video. Believe it or not, if you take the essence of what I showed you in this video and apply it, you will be able to become a lifecycle strategist for agencies and brands, and you will be able to bridge the gap between you building emails and setting up accounts and actually contributing on a strategic level for a company. And trust me, if you found a little bit of value in this video, please like and subscribe. It helps way more than you think, and I would really appreciate it. If you found even a tiny little bit of value, please subscribe. There's plenty more videos coming your way, and I promise you, each and every one of them will teach you at least one thing that you don't know about lifecycle marketing and e-commerce.